So at this stage I'm happy that our seal isn't going to be engaged by any of these vehicles. So I'm going in for a combat drop. You can see the ground fire has stopped at this point.
Battle stations! Battle stations! Man is spotted, bearing 335, hot.
This ancillary transmission is directed to GRNO operator Thumblegudget. Further to our discussion of crew resource management, we request more information on GRNO standard operating procedures. Specifically, what are the roles and responsibilities of the Special Ops Officer? Please provide an example of a typical special operation and explain how it would be incorporated into the crew's overall strategy. Be sure to keep your answer professional. The Grim Reapers have a reputation for, shall we say, unorthodox tactics. 1 year later, we are still trying to deal with the political fallout from the Yeet a Jeep incident. We will not accept material that might undermine discipline if distributed to other units. Do a thing. That is all.
Hello Commanders and welcome. It's Thumblegudget here, and it looks like this video is going to be a quick intro into my role on the GRNO team, which is Special Ops. Now, one of the nice things about playing with a regular crew is that you all get the opportunity to specialise, and you also start developing a standard doctrine as you learn some of the same lessons together. One of the lessons that we've learned as a crew is that it's very difficult to multitask with the carrier. Now, I'll give you an example. It's very easy to say, well, we'll go to Burn and we will take 2 islands simultaneously. But in practice that's a great recipe for getting bogged down. And the best way to operate the carrier as a crew is to have everybody working on the same objective and to go from one objective to the next. However, having a special ops person on the carrier is a very neat way to get around that, because the role of the special ops player is to take on a job that is separate to the rest of the crew and to get on with that in parallel to what the crew is doing, and that way the captain can simply assign that task to special ops and then continue to command the carrier to get on with the general strategy. So an example here would be the carrier would move from high-tac on to Burn and so on, but special ops might be given the mission, go and take Elwood. And we found that this is actually a very effective way to multitask the carrier. So that's one part of Special Ops, and the part that I'll be demonstrating today. There's another part of it as well, which is my favourite part, and the part I'm going to give fewer details about, which is the part where I get close to the enemy and cause havoc, break things, steal things, and so on. And maybe I'll get onto that in a future video, although I tend to like to keep my methods secret. So we're looking at remote capture, and for remote capture we're going to be using the Petrel, the workhorse of the fleet. Now, it is entirely possible to take a one-shield island with just a Petrel and a virus seal. It requires a bit of skill, but it's entirely doable. You just need a Petrel and 2 20mm cannons. The operational range of the Petrel in terms of special ops is as follows. So I tend to say that the Petrel can go 2 islands away from the carrier. So in this case you could reach Burn, you could reach Elwood. And you'd still have enough fuel to carry out a capture mission and return, although of course Burn is a 3-shielder, so don't attempt that. The maximum radius of the Petrel, as in be able to go out and come back again, is about 3 islands. So if you're just doing a drop-off or a pick-up, you can get as far as Cerebus, Acheron, Socrates. I could do that trip with confidence, do a drop-off and return. You would have no fuel to carry out a mission at that maximum radius, which is why I call it maximum radius. Now the maximum range of the petrol, which is if you're not planning to return to the carrier, I tend to say is 6 islands, so you could get as far as Beacon with the petrol, but don't expect to get it back. As I say, 3 islands radius, but maximum range 6 islands. So for this demonstration we're going to load up a petrol, we're going to go and take Elwood and then return to the carrier. So I'll demonstrate to you how a mission like that would be flown. Here's our petrol ready to go. I've armed it with 2 20mm autocannon, and the 2 AA missiles are just nice to haves. We'll probably bring them back. And for this mission we'll be taking with us a virus seal. So we hook up the petrol and we get it on its way to the objective. You can see the compound is on the southern side of this island. For the moment we'll just set a course towards it. Okay, so the petrol now has the seal on the hook. So what we can do now is we can set up our combat drop. And for this I'm going to select this point here just to the north of the compound. I'll select it, I will select deploy vehicle, and then I will put a hold point at 1100 meters just away from the compound, which is where the petrol will fly to once it's dropped the vehicle off. Now it's important to choose a point that's relatively easy to spot, because you're going to be flying the petrol manually, and this will speed up the drop-off point if you can do it manually. Now the petrol will normally cruise at about 60 meters a second, and that is absolutely fine. But a thing that you can do if you have capacity available as an operator is you can speed things up, and this, believe it or not, doesn't have a fuel penalty. So what you actually do is buy more time by doing this. If I switch to manual control, I can actually increase the speed to pretty much double what it is in a normal cruise for a phase of this flight. So I can increase the speed to about 120, and this means we'll arrive at the destination island faster. You adjust the pitch so that you maintain the same altitude. You see it's climbing here, so I can nose forward a bit, and you can see the speed creeping up to about 120. Cue fast travel.
2 minutes later.
You can see the island ahead now, we're approaching it, and as you can see we're at 77% fuel, so we don't need to hurry too much when it comes to clearing this island. What we need to do is conserve our ammo, because for a novice pilot it can be a bit of an ask to clear an island with 2 autocannons, but I promise you it can be done. So let's get started. Now one of the nice things about the petrol is that the petrol has lots of armour. It's pretty much only 15mm guns that will be shooting at you, so you can more or less fly around and shoot stuff with impunity. If you can do this at night, it also helps because the vehicle headlights are a dead giveaway where the vehicles are. Now the most important thing is to use short controlled bursts. And don't be afraid to get too close. Now our landing area is this area here just to the north of the compound, so we'll be doing the combat drop there. But first I want to be sure that our virus bots aren't going to be exposed to ground fire. So I have seen some headlights around this headland here. There they are. And there are some vehicles heading towards over here. Choosing when to drop the virus bots is an important choice to make. If you drop them too early, then they stand the chance of getting destroyed, whereas if you drop them very late, then that's safer, but you might be a bit tighter on fuel. So at this stage I'm happy that our seal isn't going to be engaged by any of these vehicles. So I'm going in for a combat drop. You can see the ground fire is stopped at this point. So you can see the seal's deployed. I'm going to move it to the far side of the compound and then tell it to deploy the virus bots. I'll then tell it to just move down there. Now you notice that I'm not doing any target spotting, so be sure that you identify friendly targets. You can see the seal has been spotted, that's why I'm moving it around to the far side. So it's time now to get back into the petrol and make sure that no enemy units sneak up on the seal. So get situational awareness again. And yes, you can see there's some vehicles heading in. There's a nice convoy over here. So as I say, nice short controlled bursts. The island capture is well underway. And the seal is waiting for pickup. So time for a last look around the island. And if you're really short for time, this stage is sometimes even unnecessary. But I'll do it now for completeness sake. So you can see there are no more headlights, and if it's during daylight this is a bit harder because you won't see the headlights, and the easiest way is to fly around at this kind of altitude and see if anything shoots at you. But it looks like we've pretty much cleared the island. Another thing that's worth saying when it comes to shooting at vehicles is if they're in the water, then you don't get the same kind of splash damage, and those are going to be harder to hit. So the petrol is now set to, you can see the capture's going ahead there, the petrol is now set to come to this hold point here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to instruct the petrol to fly to a point, and this has to be right on top of the seal, select a pickup and then route it on out. So now we do a combat pickup, which means we fly right over the top of the seal, and as we go over the top we activate that waypoint, and that allows us to hook the vehicle. So flight path indicator right over the top of the vehicle, and yoink. So we've grabbed the seal, and now we can be on our way back to the carrier. So I've set return to mother, and at this point the special ops operator can basically be looking for the next mission because the petrol is on its way back. Now 47% fuel should easily be enough to get back to the carrier. If you're afraid that you don't quite have enough fuel to get back, so if you're looking at this sort of distance and you had about 25% fuel left, you can expedite the return flight by doing it manually, just as we came. So you can put it into manual control and give it some welly. So there you have it, that's an introduction to Special Ops. So I hope this has been informative, and thanks for watching. This is Thumblegudget signing off.